Now I have put up a past, I only put it up this morning. This is an example of a past paper from 2015, and it's the actual full paper. So in your time, if you want to look at it, and it gives you an idea of how questions might be structured. And as I told you, the exam is kind of like a running case, right? It's like a running case. So you would find question 1 is about Southwest Airlines. Section 2 is about Southwest Airlines, which is a matrix. Then you have a value chain question, which is about Southwest Airlines. Then you have a generic question about the resource-based view. Then you have a question number 5 about Southwest Airlines. Then you have a financial ratio about Southwest Airlines. And you have a space matrix. So that's really how the exam is going to be structured. Similarly, it is all things that are generally linked up. 1 or 2 questions might be independent, right? So you have a number of matrices that are linked. Right? So you can pull in from one question, look at a matrix. It makes it easier for you to do your analysis. So I said I just put that up this morning. So you can practice with your colleagues, talk about them. That's the most important thing, to chat about the subject areas. So we'll look a bit at 1 or 2 of those questions and the wording of the questions. So even though I said we are formally ending lectures today, so you can get into preparing yourselves, and I'm sure you have the burden of other presentations and coursework, I'll still make myself available for any student who wants to chat with me. Some students have been coming, so whether you are there or even if you want to meet with me after work, just send an email, and I'll make arrangements so we can meet one-on-one. If you have a little group, 2 or 3, but better if you can have a little group, you can come. So I said I'll make myself still available into next week, so we can, if you wanted to meet with me to clarify anything, right? So please take note of that. Yes, if there are any groups who did presentations, you have not yet given me the peer review form, I need to get your peer review forms, please. Right? And everybody has to sign the peer review form. They're just a small number of people, but just reminding you of that. Now, remember, folks, as I said before, the best way to prepare for this exam is to talk strategy. Not just sit down and read notes, but talk about the relationships, just as we have been doing in class and in tutorials. Find colleagues that you can have engaging discussions. And as I said, you don't have to meet in their space, right? You can link up in a Skype call, and you can have a discussion for 20, 30 minutes. You understand? So there's technology that allows you, or if not, you can just call a person if the 2 of you want to talk. But have sessions where you talk strategy and look at the relationships, but don't try to just read notes. That is not the best way to prepare for the exam. And as you talk to people, you can talk relationships. Say, let's talk value chain. Just start to talk value chain. Don't even think necessarily about answering a question. Let's talk value chain. What are the linkages to backward integration? What are the linkages to forward integration? What are the linkages to horizontal? What are the linkages to the business model? What is the difference between primary and secondary value chain? Right? So just start talking value chain and just talking and look at all the relationships. And that's better learning actually than just sit down reading notes by yourself, you see. So I just want to urge, and I've been saying it over and over, folks, I know the course, right? I've been teaching this course for a while. And I know what would help you to develop the skills and the confidence. Because once you can talk it, it means you understand it. You cannot talk about anything, right? You cannot engage in a conversation about something you don't understand, correct? So why I say have conversations with your colleagues, it gives you confidence to know what you know and what you don't know. Because if you begin a conversation about value chain, you will then start to realize, oh, sure, I really don't understand this. But if you're just reading it on your own, you're just reading and memorizing. So I'm not going to put you wrong, folks. To find out what you know and what you don't know well, have these conversations. You've got about 3 or 4 weeks to have these conversations. And you can do your reading, supplement, but these interactive conversations, challenging one another, actually will be the best way to gain better understanding and knowledge. As I said, why this is important? Because the course requires you to bring a measure of understanding for the exam. So let's look at the questions to show you what I mean, right? It says, you're newly hired strategy consultant for Southwest Airlines. Now I say you're a student, a strategy consultant. You see what I'm saying here? You are the strategy consultant for the company. And then this one for the CPM says, given the CPM for Southwest, conduct a critical analysis of the matrix 1 for 10 marks. And then based on your analysis, offer logical and practical recommendations to the executive team. So these are not the traditional essays that you're having. Your role is consultant. So because your role is consultant, the way you do, and they say a report, you understand what I'm saying? So it's not traditional. So if you think you can go and learn essays by rote, it can run you in trouble, right? So you need to start to adopt this role of consultant, engaging a client, right? That's the mental orientation I want you to have going into the exam. All right, if you look at the value chain question, as a strategy consultant, you realize. So again, you understand what I'm saying? Your role is a consultant's role, not a student's role in the exam. So you need to change the hat from a student writing essays to a student, to you're now a student consultant advising their client. Everybody understand the mental orientation I'm saying? So I don't want you to go in the exam thinking you can see essays, traditional, they will not be traditional essays. So you're thinking how I am a consultant. So begin to think that you are a consultant all like now, providing advice to a company. So if you get a CPM matrix, you're advising the client on the CPM. If you get a space matrix or brand strategy matrix, you're advising your client. So you're going to analyze this matrix for your client and then advise the client how that particular thing could benefit the client, right? So that's going to be very, very important. And last point, folks, remember, it is not a rote course, right? So just reading, cramming for the exam will not guarantee you success, right? Just cramming for the exam will not deal with the relationships and interrelationships that you will find, right? And don't get into the habit of just looking at past questions and practicing past questions. It's better for you to look at relationships and interrelationships. And from my last tutorial, I'm confident there are a number of students, those who spoke, they are comfortable with the relationships and interrelationships. That's really the best way for you to prepare for the session. Good morning. So we'll come back to one or two of these questions. In fact, maybe you can stay here, because we had a question about you said the value chain, right? So in fact, there's a classic example, because this value chain question is about an airline, which is a service. So one of the students asked the question, if we can look at interpreting the value chain for service. Now, we did it before, if you remember correctly, right? So let's go through it again. So the first thing is, what would be the significant differences between a manufacturing business, analyzing its value chain, and a service business or industry like an airline, analyzing its value chain? What are the significant differences? Sorry? Right. You're really not going to be carrying inventory like a Walmart or Price Mart or Starbucks. They ain't going to have any big inventory, right? The main thing that they would have that would be variable, there are a number of variable things that they will have, but which is the most heavy variable cost they would have? Staff? Not oil, the fuel. The fuel and the oil will be the most variable cost and the highest, because they use substantial amounts of oil to travel, right? Substantial amounts of fuel to travel. And because of the volatility of the environment, oil prices could go higher or come right down, right? So if it drops right down, who benefits? Sorry? Airline. So if we apply bargaining power of the supplier to the airline industry, who has the bargaining power in terms of supply? Huh? The oil companies, because there are not a lot of them. OPEC controls it, so they can get together to determine we will up the price, and then they get to determine we will drop the price. So most of when their profitability is threatened, they up the price, the industry struggles. But there are ways in which companies can make adjustments to deal with this instability. Because can they easily backward integrate? Why is it so challenging for these airlines to backward integrate? You people about the oil company? Trillions. Sorry? Right, they have high bargaining power, but as you say, they got trillions of dollars. But there's something else too. Where most of the oil comes from? Arab countries, which is a totally, and who controls the oil in those countries? The government and a few elite families. So it's not like in the West where you got this democratic voting system. You got some powerful families and Arabs who control, and families control the industry. Even in Nigeria and then places again, you got issues of control, government control. So government's not going to give up such a major asset. You see? So in most countries, Venezuela, government controls the oil again. So it's not like a private company generally that you can just buy a private. So unfortunately, backward integration wouldn't work that easily, at least for the fuel and the oil. But backward integration can work for what in the airline? What kind of other supplies is critical for your line to have? What other supplies? But it's not the tickets. The supply will be paper, but how many people use paper now for tickets? So what have they done in terms of the industry now? In terms of business model? They moved to brick and clay. So most of it is clay. I know last day I took a ticket to the airport. You got your cell phone, you can throw it, you can show it, and you can scan, or you can just, right. So they have moved now. So that's a value chain activity. So they have brick and clay even for airlines now. So a lot of buying tickets and booking things, you don't go, I remember the old time days, you had to turn up at an airline office, stand in line to buy tickets and pay your money. Nobody does that anymore. One or two people might go if you're booking like a long cruise that's going from point to point. You might want to go and get counsel from your agent. What are my choices? But generally, if you're sure where you're going, you go online, get your credit card, and you pay for your ticket. So that's what I'm saying here, folks, is integrating the concept, the business model is being integrated here. That they've moved into brick and clay. So these are concepts and linkages that you should know at this point, right? So it's not ticket, it will be more paper. So at some point they will still have to have things documented. So the supply will be buying paper from Xerox or someplace like that. What other supplies they would have, an airline would have? Snacks. And if you're traveling on Emirates, anybody here ever travel on Emirates? Listen, you won't fly on a plane unless you fly Emirates. Well, you fly, but let me tell you, listen. If it's going to the Caribbean, they had a deck, right? They had a top. The plane had two decks, and then there was a part where I felt small because I saw a spiral staircase at both ends of the plane. And the plane from here all up by the main admin. So you had a spiral staircase on both ends to tell me that's the top deck. So spiral staircase going up with like wood corners. But I was talking to people now who first class, who might be paying for. If I'm in economy, well, how go economy in Emirates? But I'm serious. But listen, when you talk about quality, picture you go. I'm talking about a plane. It's about what? It's about 9 to 10 across. And there's a total other deck up top for VIP with the spiral cases made out of wood. But when you talk about service, I mean like breakfast ain't like where they give you bacon and eggs, right? Breakfast is cod, the smoked salmon, wine. If you want wine, you can order wine as you want. I mean, some of these things are free. Free. Sorry? But what I'm saying to you, but you talk about a 12-hour flight. You're talking about 12-hour flight. Sometimes 14-hour flights. But for breakfast, break, lunch, dinner, it's just constantly serving you. I mean, you're not talking about wrapping no thing. You're talking about really sophisticated, like if you're serving, a la carte at a hotel. But you're talking about a 12 and 14-hour flight. People, going across to, if you're going up to India, going up to India, parts of Africa, Dubai and those places, that's who they're catering to. So to fly on Emirates is a very expensive way to travel. right? So when I went to Africa, the cost of the ticket alone was $9,000. That's just the ticket. $9,000. Yes, economy. So what I'm saying to you, what I'm saying to you though, again, that's what they're carrying term. If you can't afford to pay, you will never go, right? So, man, you can get there, so don't talk like that. But if what I'm saying to you for, picture an airline like Emirates. But again, Emirates comes from when you say the Arab countries. So they want to have, like Singapore Airlines, they want to have the most superior service you could ever find. And that's what they give you, man. Excellent, totally excellent service. Right? So even the quality of everything, the quality of the blankets, the quality of the pillows, it's really, you can tell they're not buying cheap stuff. Right? But again, that's the niche they're traveling on. So they're saying, if you travel on this intercontinental flight, and you're paying this top dollar, we will serve you to the highest level. So that's what they're committing to. Right? But for people to pay that kind of money to get poor quality service, they will have some challenges. Right? So in an airline like that, think about its supply source, or the supply sources. They're actually going to be buying from the high end. And basically, most of them have some dedicated supplier that they have an arrangement. You guarantee us you will provide X. And of course, they're branded. Everything is branded. Because everything will have Emirates on it, you see. So customized and specialized for Emirates. So you would find in an airline that kind of customization and specialization. So with the supplier, you will tend to find very collaborative relationships between the supplier and the airline. So even in terms of food, it would not be any and every supplier that supplies food. Why is it critical in terms of supplying food to the airline? What's something unique about the airline and providing meals? Sorry? The consistency, but it's something bigger than that. Especially intercontinental airlines. Sorry? Something more than that. Sorry? The packaging? But you talk about an airline. Who travels on an airline? Huh? Customer satisfaction, but who travels on an airline? Everybody. Which means, what you classify? Which could be people from Saudi Arabia, India, China, Africa, Latin America, US, Canada. So you could find in one airplane people from mixed, diverse, cultural, ethnic, and religious backgrounds. You must be able to cater to their needs and eating. You understand what I'm saying to you? So if Jewish people are traveling on the plane, they have a unique diet. If Arabs are traveling on the plane, they have a unique diet. So I'm saying to the food stuff you buy can't be generic, especially on a 10-hour flight. So you need to cater to the needs of people who are Jewish. But they can't be on a flight for 10 hours and not eating anything. And if you're Arab, there's a unique type of dish. If you're Indian, depending on what country you're from, if you're Hindi or whatever. So what I'm saying, even in providing meals, you need to make sure that you understand the kind of different dietary needs, but you can't mess it up. Because when you're serving people, particularly with these very dedicated religious backgrounds or ethnic backgrounds, you can't serve them the wrong thing, or it cannot not be prepared properly. But that could be a major, major soup for the airline. So even in the quality, somebody mentioned that, so the reliability and consistency of quality is a big thing. So which part of the value chain or value chain activities would deal with that? Huh? Procurement, right. Procurement, which is going back to supply sources, because you need to make sure when you provide food stuff or you buy the materials, whoever is providing it, the quality must be perfect, and you can't get little things mixed up. That the chicken, that the meat you're using for the Arabs has not been prepared in the way that it should have been prepared. Right? It's a good faith and very trusting relationship. So the different thing now for a value chain for airline is it does not have traditional processing. Right? It does not have traditional processing. So how would you deal with the issue of operations in an airline? What are the operations in an airline? Sorry? Cleaning. You have to clean the airline. What else? What? So, and service, again, the level of service and maintaining the flight. For safety, security. So operations with the security and safety will be at the highest level. So it has implications for what then? If you're saying in operations, safety and security are going to be major. Has implications for what? Cost and what particularly? to make sure the safety and security would work? Practically.
Skill set. Skill set, like your staff.
You better believe it. Skill set, it means that the people then must be highly trained, not only highly trained, but highly competent. Because they can't make errors when they're maintaining these planes. So they will have to be very highly trained, consistently trained, which means the cost that you will have to pay them would also be a high cost. You understand? But they're highly trained and highly qualified, especially your engineers, the quality inspectors. You understand? So you cannot afford to have a mistake with a plane. Right? So both secondary or primary or secondary, which has the most importance? Both secondary and primary? So what kind of what kind of security measures do you tend to find in operations or safety and security measures? No, you have primary and secondary value chain. So I'm saying, what kind of operations or safety and security measures, you would see in primary versus secondary? Would it be similar things? Right, so what would you, right, so that's what I'm saying. So you will have the part now where you physically are maintaining the plane, correct? You're physically maintaining the plane. Sorry? Right, primary. So the plane, physically checking the plane when it lands, making sure that everything is okay. But then you have another part now. What about the checking in? And security check, is that still primary or is that secondary? You sure? That's still primary, right? That's still part of operation. Their security checks will still be part of operation. I agree, it's primary. What would be secondary in an airline? Background checks? Sorry? The technology. It could be that you suspect people, you're getting checks done behind the scene. Correct? So they still, don't forget, the accounting function, which is back of office. There's still HR, back of office. Research and development will still be back of office, right? Not in operations. Right? You're still going to have those things operating too. So as I said, the main difference then would be you would not have a distinct operations where you're converting raw materials. Do airlines make food? No. So they're like a Walmart. They buy finished products and they just bring them in and they go directly to the planes. So I don't even think they wouldn't have a lot of storage either, because they come as demand. You see, which is different than even to say maybe even a chauffeur, right? So somebody delivers it for you, and then you get it straight to the plane, and on a daily basis, some food company is providing food. So you don't even have to worry again the food safety thing. Who has the responsibility for the food safety? Sorry? Of course. Because you cannot you cannot, when the food is packaged, you can't open it to check the quality. So what does it say about the relationship between the supplier of food and the company, say Southwest Airlines? What does it say about that, Martin?
Like, kind of be close or almost integrated to some point.
But only close? Yes. It's a very high trust relationship. It has to be high trust. Because when you package food and you say, it's for any Jewish people traveling on the plane or Arab people, you trust that in that, it does not violate their food regulations or their food religious laws. Because if you do, so it's really a high trust relationship, because the food is already packaged. Right? So it means that there would have to be some kind of relationship between the supplier and the airline company to guarantee quality. So you might have inspectors who might go, right? You might actually have inspectors who go in the company to inspect. You might send your inspectors into the food producing company to do periodic checks to verify quality standards. Unannounced. Right. Unannounced. In fact, like even restaurants, top-notch restaurants actually do it. Chauffeur does it. Great Chauffeur has inspectors who actually go around to the different restaurants unannounced, just spontaneously monitoring quality. So that is really the essence, the same relationships of looking at strategic cost analysis, fuel costs, gas costs, maintenance costs, security costs. Security will be quite excellent. The quality, as you said, of the staff and the engineering, constant training and development, research and development will be pushing your cost up. So you need to find ways of how can you reduce your costs, right? In forward integrating, is there a lot of forward integrating that can be done? As somebody said last time, some airlines own planes, others do what? Most of them lease planes. You lease a plane. So a plane will be from the supply source again, people, and they're very expensive things. Yes?
I was going to ask for ground transportation.
That is leased too. Some people might own it. So ground, remember that it's outbound or ground? Oh yeah, ground transportation. I see what Martin is saying. Yeah. Whether like distribution is like outbound logistics.
Yeah, as a outbound, yeah, when you have the passengers
Land, you take them then to the terminal. You see the point Martin is making?
Or to
With the shuttles? He was talking about the shuttle, which could be like outbound distribution, which I'm not
well,
saying.
in my real estate, you see that happen in big buses,
Right.
but then again, the airlines I don't think so.
Yeah, it could be most likely could be outsourced. But it's still outbound the logistics, and I gather what Martin is saying, you see?
So that service is way here.
That's what he's saying, it's probably more like the government or something.
Right.
Or the airport.
But don't forget, in certain parts of the U.S., government doesn't own the airport; they lease out airports. You see, so it could be even the airport could have it out to concessions. I don't know, or maybe you might find some of the airlines actually having strategic relationships and investing in it because they have a totally different model, right? The fact that you can have an airport run by a private business, so it's possible airlines, Martin, might invest in some of these private companies that run the shuttles again to ensure quality, which is like.
I think what years ago, because you don't really see it much these days, because a lot of them are these several years ago, like when you touched on in Miami, and airlines would have their own buses that would shuttle you to different locations. Whether it be rental companies there that pick up the vehicles or hotels.
So in that case, they would have forward integrated to make sure that after the plane is landed, there is a shuttle service that will take people then to where they want to get. And if you release it, you're disengaging and allowing some contractor then to do it on your behalf.
Which is why they're supposed to do it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Again, and the intention is to do that. What are you trying to do?
To please the customer, keep everything.
And keep your costs down.
To disengage from it.
Right. Because sometimes, remember we talked about divestment. Sometimes taking control of something might not work out as you think. So divesting to get rid of something you own might be a strategy to help to reduce your cost and let somebody else do it. So the examples we can use is like Flow, which is another service industry too, Flow and Digicel, where before the old model with line was and cable and wireless, they owned all the outlets. They were line or cable and wireless outlets, and you won't pay your bills there and buy your phones. Now they don't own any. They have outsourced all. So they had, but what they did, they had forward integrated where they control all the outlets, but then they know the opposite, disintegrated, where they now have a private business that runs all of the outlets. They don't run any. A private business, they use their brand, like a Kentucky, but they are not owned, operated by Flow. So they saw that as a means of reducing costs. So maybe when they controlled it, when they're forward integrated and they controlled it, it was too expensive for them, and they found it was cheaper not to own the distribution sources. So the point I'm making here, owning the distribution source is not necessarily always the best strategy. It could be what determines whether you use the backward or forward integration. The cost. If you realize the cost of doing it is to your disadvantage, you need to divest of it. Right? So the main thing, folks, will be the cost. Right? So that's in essence, if you approach a question on value chain for an airline, those are some of the issues. And the same point, you still got to mention, folks, in any value chain question, what are the key points you still need to mention in answering? The value chain analysis is about managing your costs, and the specific activities are, what are the specific activities? Strategic cost analysis, to identify your cost drivers, look for your cost advantages, your cost disadvantages. And as we said before, there's a direct link to your business model too, that depending on the activities, you can use brick and click as strategies to try to keep your costs down. And that's how that's all folks, the kind of concepts we need. Now, if at this point those linkages are quite clear to you, which it should be for most students, you're ready. There isn't anything more you've got to do to prepare for the exam. There isn't much more you've got to read. You're ready for the exam for a question like that. If you're still lost on that, you still got some work to do. Right? But for what I'm saying, with certain eyes, I gather most people are ready for it. Those all are ready for the value chain question, put your hands up. I should have said keep your hand down. Brother Allen and more people would. I would take it that that's the whisper, that you all still, I may show you the video just now, you all still hiding in the crowd. Huh? You ready for value chain yet? A little bit? You all are just pool sharkers, man. You ready about there, right? Up front. Who here ready? Mark, you ready? Tightening the nuts. Folks, let me restate, there are some generic concepts that you need to know going into the exam. When I say generic, I said them last week, I repeat them this week again. The concept of PESTLE, there's an external environment dealing with the internal, those external forces of legal, governmental intervention, legal issues, the issues of economic downturn, the economy booms, the economy drops, and these are things you see in the CPN, right? State of the economy, a booming economy, technological issues, this technology that allows you to have click. Without technology, there'll be no click. There's no modern business model. So know that concept, the issue of a vision, know what a vision is, mission is, those are basic concepts you can integrate in an exam. So business model is a generic concept. You're not going to get a question saying the business model is, but it's expected that at some point you will know how to integrate this concept of a business model into any question. So you still need to understand that concept of a business model, which is sources of revenue, managing costs to make your profit. And as you said, you have the traditional brick and click versus the modern click business or the blend of brick and click. And the main thing about it, trying to keep costs down so that as your revenues grow or your sales grow, that you're able to make your profits. Right? Issue of competitive advantage, you need to understand that concept of competitive advantage, why competitive advantage is very important. That is something that you really should know. The other thing that is going to be very critical is that by now you should realize you need to know all of your competitive strategies, your corporate and competitive strategies. So Porter's 5 generic, which is cost leadership, focus on differentiation, and you need to know all the other, which is the intensive, which is made up of market penetration, market development, and product development. Right? And we said students generally get market penetration, and market development mixed up. So you know how to distinguish it. You wouldn't make that error. So how do we distinguish market penetration from market development? Right. Penetration is in your current geographical market. Development means you go some other part of the world. That's what it is. You go some other part of the world to do business. Because of what? What drives you there? What drives a country to go in other parts of the world? Correct. Right, because, respect your product life cycle, the market you're in might be saturated, and the product might get a new life in a totally different market. So it really means boosting sales and managing costs. How could it manage costs if you go in another jurisdiction? Currency and strategic alliances, but currency changes. Not only currency, but cost of living. Right? The cost of living is so low that when you go there, you benefit from the cost of living, cheaper fuel, cheaper electricity costs, and things like those. And everybody knows the vertical integration strategies, which are backward, forward, and horizontal, and you know how they work. And as I said, just as we said with the value chain question just now, anytime you're seeing these concepts, value chain is linked to integration, linked to business model. You could even link in product development if you want to link in product development into value chain, right? If you think about it. And product development can actually be linked to diversification. How could product development be linked to a diversification strategy? How can product development be linked to a diversification strategy? Sorry? But how is it linked? Now I'm talking about the market and say how is product development linked to diversification? We talk about product development and diversification. I'm not talking about market, we're talking about the actual product. Whichever. That's it. If you want to introduce unrelated diversification, you have to do research and development. And it's when you do research and development, don't forget it's product development. So it is the value chain component of research and development. So the only way you can have unrelated diversification is to bring something new to market. And it involves product development in research and development. Don't forget, folks, what is unrelated diversification? It's bringing some new product or service to the market. So the new product and service don't come out of a hat. So the only way you're going to get this new product to diversify is by research and development, which is, if you're bringing a new product or service, product development. So what I'm saying, folks, they're not separate things. These things are linked and interrelated. And we already touched on the diversification strategies, and I have given you several times the key principles to distinguish related from unrelated diversification, which is, how do you distinguish, what factor would allow you to distinguish related from unrelated diversification? Yes, this side. This side, I'm coming this side, yeah. This side, how do you distinguish related from unrelated diversification? So what do you mean by be more specific? It's like FedEx basically. Right. Be more specific than that. There's something specific I told you. Excellent. If it is related, the value chain activities are going to be similar. If it is unrelated, you're going in, right? So why is it important for both sides? If it is related, what is it that the company can benefit from once it's related? What? When it's the same value chain activities. Right, cost, you don't need to do anything new. What else? Sorry? Right, so the costs are low. What else? Right. So since it's the same value chain activities, if it is in manufacturing, for example, what other benefits I would have internally from following the same value chain activity? Sorry? What's that? Who said somebody? Look, you all start whispering in my class. The same competencies. Because don't forget, the value chain activities are how you buy things, how you do things to sell it to the customer. So when you are doing things, the competencies required required to do these things will be similar to because the value chain activities are similar. And when you get unrelated, it means you might need now to retrain, which can be a cost dimension, and you know to retrain people to be able to do things in a particular way. Right. Correct. So even in an airline, if I get a new plane, the pilot's got to be retrained to fly the plane. The engineer's got to be retrained. Even the air hostesses with the gadgets and the instruments on how to prepare stuff. So even changing a plane requires, right? Suppose you go in a different niche. You were into like a small little Learjet business, and you want to go no big to the big jets. Right? And you're going in a totally different market now. You're saying, no, we're going into the commercial. You were into domestic, you're going into now like a FedEx type of business now. Is it related and related? It's related, but they will still have to do some upgrading of skills too. But in unrelated, there will be some significant different skills you will have. So like an airline buying an oil company, even though it's unlikely to happen, if you buy an oil company, that's a whole totally different set of competencies. Or airline opening, you say, well, I want control of the food, so you actually buy the food business, and you're now involved in producing food. A whole totally different set of skill sets. And then the other aggressive defensive strategies, divestiture, liquidation, buyovers, etc., retrenchment. So all of the strategies you need to know, because when you get to your space matrix, and this is what you will see under exam conditions, it tells you where company X is, where Southwest is, and it falls in the competitive quadrant. And once it falls in the competitive quadrant, there are a number of prescribed strategies. And as I told you before, let me see if I can find those PowerPoints.